Time now for today's Math in the News. All right, in studio with us today for Math in the News, we've got Jesse. How are you?
Nice to meet you. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm excellent myself. So thanks for coming in. So you are with the
Arts
Council of Kern, or is it the Kern Council of Arts, or what?
It's the Arts Council of Kern.
Arts Council of
Yes.
Kern. All right. And for students that are watching and they're going, I've never heard of that before. So what is, or what does the Arts Council do?
So the Arts Council of Kern is a nonprofit that advocates art for the community of Kern. They do tons of stuff in the community as far as galleries, painting on walls. They provide grants for people who are trying to get art done in the city. And they're just basically kind of like a hub of advocacy for artists.
Okay, and you need to be a member of the council in order to be eligible for these grants and things like that also, correct?
Not necessarily, that helps, but just by getting in contact with them, you can contact them via their website at kernarts.org. They're also here downtown at 1020 18th Street.
Okay.
Go in there, talk to them, and if you're an artist who wants to get any work done here in the city, they'll advocate for you. They'll help you in any way they can.
That's the place to go, because I know that at our school we have these big ball walls, and they were just blue, and I got a hold of the council and said, hey, I need somebody to come out and give me some ideas and see if they could do it. And they were kind enough, they were able to donate their time and paint, and it looked just awesome.
Yeah.
To transform those just plain colored ball walls into something that represented the school.
That's awesome.
So I know that you have got a slideshow that you put together here with murals that you've been working on.
Yeah, myself and other artists here in Kern County.
All right, well, let's start taking a look at some of these.
Sure. Okay, so I put together this slideshow to kind of show the different types of murals that have been happening around town. And what I like to do is break it down to kind of show you guys how math is also implemented in a lot of these murals.
All right.
The first mural that I want to talk about is the Lanao Brahma Park. This one was designed and painted by myself at a park in Lanao Brahma, which is kind of southwest of Bakersfield. The park has yet to be opened, but they should be doing a ribbon cutting around October or so. So the community can come by, hang out in the park, and check out the mural. Another mural that has been on California Avenue and the California 99 freeway by the artist of Wendy Johnson. This one, if you're driving by California, you can see it any time of day. The other one that we've been working on has been on the Garza Circle by Alex G. This one has just been finished.
I was going to say, that's the newest one, right?
This is the latest one.
Okay.
Yeah, correct. And it took around, I want to say like 3 weeks or so, with about like 10 different artists, all of them from Bakersfield. So it's really nice to see them get out and do their work and stuff like that. So the newest, the one that hasn't started yet is the one on Q Street and California 204. This one's going to be under the underpass, under some bridges, and it's a pretty massive mural that's going to be happening, and I'm going to be leading this project here. But I want to move forward and show you guys basically how a mural is created. So the first thing you need to do is survey the wall or the place where you're going to be painting, and by doing that, you'll have to figure out what is going to be your area. And the area is basically going to be your canvas. So in order to figure out the area, you're going to have to measure your width and your height. And by doing so, then you get to know what your square footage is.
Okay.
So for example, for this one right here, it was 60 feet wide by 8 foot tall. And the square footage comes out to be 480. And the way I solved that was, there's an equation for solving square footage, which is basically measuring the height and width and multiplying them together. And since we said the painting was 480 square feet, this allows you to figure out how much paint you're going to be needing for that space.
Now, is there a certain paint you need for doing murals outdoors?
Yeah.
So that it withholds and stands up to the weather and stuff?
That's right. Yeah, there's several types of paint. So The first step you want to do is clean your wall and then add a paint called primer.
Okay.
Primer is a good paint that will lay a foundation. For example, if the wall has different types of color or anything like that, you lay down a white foundation and that's kind of where you want to start. But also what it does is the primer adheses, so it sticks onto the wall a lot better than what paint would do. So it's always a good starter to have the primer in between the finished paint and the wall you're painting on, so it can have the best hold.
Okay.
Yeah. So for example, we're doing 480 square foot. So for this, we're going to need about 1 gallon and about 1 quart. And the 20% could just be anything extra, just in case. And then you have a breakdown of the cost of the gallon and the quart, and that allows you to kind of estimate how much money you'll spend on materials and things of that nature. Moving forward, another interesting thing that I find when you're creating these designs and you're figuring out how much paint you're going to need, and it's not necessarily broken down into squares, you kind of have a lot of different types of shapes going into different types of squares. So you kind of have to guesstimate how much paint you're going to need by counting your squares. So for this one, I would like to show you guys the blue, for example, is what we're focusing on. And if you notice, some of these areas don't really have a full square of blue. However, we mark them just because the majority of the square has blue, and we like to account for how much paint we're going to be needing. So for this one, we had 66 blue squares. And then by doing that, each one of these squares is 1 square foot. So with 66 squares, you have 66 square feet. And that allows you to know how much blue you're going to need for the blue that was on that painting.
Okay.
And for this one, it was about 66 square foot. So for something like that, you probably just need a quart, because a quart is a...
And then you'll have some left over.
And you'll have some left over.
Okay.
Correct, yeah. So other thing that goes into math that I didn't know when I first started was your supplies, how much each one cost, how much paint you're going to need.
Yeah, there's a cost involved with this, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Sometimes as an artist, you just want to go and paint and have fun, but then, you know, the reality is that you also need to do a little bit of math to figure out how much paint you're going to need, how much materials you're going to need. And I wanted to show you guys just a list of the materials that I used for that project. And then I have some quantities here. For example, I had 6 rollers, I had 5 trays, I had 1 gallon bucket, 3 5-gallon buckets. And then to the left, you also see all the paints that I used for this mural. And you see 1 QT, which means 1 quart. Some of these have 2 QTs just because there's a little bit more paint involved. But you also see a breakdown of how much paint was needed for that mural.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was ultimately the final product at the mural. It's in front of a garden. However, you just see dirt. So as production goes and construction, they finish up, it'd be a nice, beautiful garden right there where you can sit and admire the mural and stuff.
All right, we see all the sprinklers in place right
That's
there.
right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you're coming up with a mural like that, do you come up with the ideas, or do they say, hey, these are what we would like you to do, give us some of what you're thinking of?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I come up with the design on my own. However, we did a survey for the community and the area around there. So the neighborhood that surrounded this park got to vote as to what they would like to see. So a lot of them mentioned birds, pets, nature, flowers, agriculture, things like that. So with this survey, I took all of those elements that were suggested,
Okay.
and I've kind of collaged it all together and designed something, which ended up being this piece right here.
All right. Well, I think the next slide you had was kind of a layout of the area.
Yeah, so moving on to the Q and 204 project, I wanted to show you guys how Caltrans has laid this out. This is the road diagram. So here you see the 204 highway, and then Q Street is the street that kind of cuts right underneath it. So these are 2 big highways right here, and then underneath here is the bridge, and then the murals are going to be going along these walls,
Okay.
right under there. Yeah, and then I wanted to show you guys the designs that are going to be going on those walls. So you're going to have like a Bakersfield condor. You're going to have some Joshua trees, desert, some poppies, Then you're gonna have a kit fox, some more native poppies. You're gonna have the Kern River, some mountains. And then the scheme on this is kind of like night and day. So you got the daytime and then you got the nighttime.
And a lot of things native to Bakersfield and Kern County.
Correct, yeah. For that project, it's a lot bigger than the park one that I showed you guys. The park was probably like 60 feet wide, but this guy is 200 feet wide.
You're not doing quarts anymore, you're doing gallons now, we see.
Exactly, so you see down there, it's 15 gallons, no more quarts. Yeah, so for this area here, which ended up being a square footage of 6,000 by multiplying 230, the height and the width. And then out of the 6,000 square feet, 1 gallon will cover 400 square feet. So by dividing the 400 square feet and the 6,000, you end up knowing how many gallons you're gonna need. So then with that 15 gallons, I go to the paint shop and I tell them I'm gonna need 16 gallons of primer just to make this thing.
And they're loving you on that right there.
Yes, yeah, we're good friends there.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, great. You know what? We certainly do appreciate you taking out some time coming to show us what you have worked on and what you will be working on. And as this all gets going. So a real quick question.
Yes.
How did you first become interested in doing art? I mean, what you're doing now is...
Yeah, so as a kid, I've always found myself drawing in my notebooks. After school, just drawing on the walls of my room, in my garage, and it kind of came naturally for me. And it's something that I kind of fostered and kept up throughout the years. Even though there's a lot of people that said, oh, you can't really do much with it, there's not a lot of jobs in the arts, but it turns out there's a lot you can do with it.
There you go.
There's lots of jobs.
Well, we certainly do appreciate your time.
that.
Thank you for coming down, and keep an eye out for more of those murals that Jesse and the Arts Council will have all around Bakersfield and Kern County. We'll be back with more right after this.